The avoidant didn't leave you because you weren't good enough. The avoidant didn't leave you because you weren't enough. The avoidant didn't leave you because you were a bad partner, and they certainly didn't leave you because you weren't lovable enough. Reality is the opposite. They left you because you were too much for them, not because you're too much in general, but what you bring, the emotional availability, the empathy, all the good qualities that you bring are beyond their capacity to handle and to receive. It's not a reflection of you at all. I know you're hurting. I know you're beating yourself up. You're second guessing everything you ever did and said in the relationship. Likely blaming yourself for the avoidance reactions. Maybe if I just didn't assert my needs here, or I bit my tongue here, or I didn't press for more, maybe they'd still be with me. Maybe, but then you wouldn't be being authentic. You would be tiptoeing and walking on eggshells, sacrificing your own wants and needs to cater to a person who doesn't have the capacity to do the relationship that you want. If you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant, you're dealing with a person that was on the receiving end of consistent childhood emotional neglect. Yeah, they had their basic needs met, food, clothing, shelter, but their emotional needs were not met. Also, they weren't able to express themselves as a kid. So what they learned in childhood is that vulnerability isn't safe. Expressing emotions and needs, it's not safe. They had no one to ever show them how to process emotions. They never had anybody to show them how to deal with life stress. What they learned to do is avoid, to stuff it, put on a happy face, and not deal with it. But they also developed a profound wound of shame. And shame is a toxic emotion. The shame comes from personalizing that consistent emotional neglect in childhood, growing up to feel defective and unlovable. And I get it. You feel empathy for that wound, and that's perfectly fine. But empathy also doesn't mean that you're obligated to be on the receiving end of bad behaviors. But that shame prevents the avoidant from being able to really actively and fully emotionally engage in a healthy relationship. Emotional intimacy is a trigger for them. That vulnerability feels unsafe. It pokes at the wound of shame. The fear that lies in the subconscious of a dismissive avoidant is, if I lower my walls and I let my partner in, they're going to figure out that I'm defective and they're going to reject me and abandon me. So emotional closeness feels unsafe, but you being the emotionally available partner, well, emotional intimacy is naturally going to build with you because you're that good kind of partner that really is special. That triggers them. Plus, your communication, you communicate your feelings and needs. Communication to an avoidant is terrifying. They weren't able to express themselves. Plus, you bring normal, healthy expectations to a relationship. This is a person, due to that profound wound of shame, that gets triggered by expectations, even expectations for the bare minimum. They often had a parent or caretaker that was very demanding of them, probably narcissistic, put high expectations on them that they couldn't really meet. So they have this belief that they can't meet expectations and they're ultimately going to disappoint somebody. So because you're showing up as a good partner, because you're showing up as a great partner, because you're showing up emotionally available, empathetic, and loving, they couldn't handle you, and it triggered their insecurities. It's not because you did anything wrong, it's because you did everything right. Dismissive avoidants are triggered by healthy relationship behaviors. So the fact that they got triggered means they're getting triggered by your normal, loving relationship behaviors. Don't beat yourself up for that. This is a person that is just not able to receive that kind of love, that kind of empathy, and that kind of effort and care. Not until they do therapy and do the inner work and fully commit to healing. But that's their journey to take. Well, you're probably also in a state of confusion because they may have blamed you for the breakup. So of course you're going to feel like you're not enough. Keep in mind that wound of shame is profound. Taking accountability in the mind of the dismissive avoidant would be confirming their own shame and defectiveness. Ooh, I did this wrong. I hurt my partner. Look, it's proof I'm a bad person. Look, it's proof I'm defective. That's painful. So what they do is they almost instinctively turn it around and make it your fault. They do the mental gymnastics to shield themselves from that wound of shame. So if they can make the breakup your fault, their urges to sabotage the relationship your fault, well, they don't have to self-reflect. They don't have to take that accountability and face that wound of shame because it's your fault. So don't personalize the wounds of a person that has childhood wounds. You didn't cause that. Don't personalize their unhealthy behavior. Just recognize that you brought great love and empathy to the table and they aren't able to receive it. And that isn't your fault. But now you do have the opportunity to learn and recognize the signs of emotional unavailability and hold boundaries. Look out for those red flags and find yourself a partner that can receive that love, that can receive that empathy, and even better yet, give it back to you in return. Find the partner that's willing to pour into you the way that you're willing to pour into them. Now you're free to do that. The avoidant wasn't able to do that, and it's sad, it's unfortunate, but they showed you they're not your person. You have yet to find your person, and they're out there. You just don't know it yet. Hold those boundaries, look out for those red flags, and you will get to that healthy, loving relationship where you actually receive, not just give.